Yes,
Yay!
What is up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. We're doing a very special Ginger Runner Live episode here on a Tuesday, a little bit later than we normally do it as well, 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, but there's a reason. One, next week is Labor Day, and on that Monday, a lot of people love to get out and enjoy the outdoors, take a little bit of extra weekend, so we want to encourage that. But also, our guest tonight is VIP, super special. It's an honor to have him back on the show, and we just needed to make it work. So I'm happy to do a different day, and I think our viewers also will be happy to sit down and listen to our guest tonight because he's inspiring. He's an absolute badass athlete and just did something pretty damn incredible. Completed the Leadman series, which is a 100-mile mountain bike ride. The next day, a 10K at altitude, and then the next weekend running the Leadville 100. Dave Mackey. Dave Mackey's joining us tonight. I can't believe the honor it is to have him on the show, a legend in the ultra running sport. But just to have him back on the show, and we're going to talk to him tonight about his incredible accomplishment. It's going to be great. So welcome everyone to Ginger Runner Live. Sit back, relax, and get ready for the show. Here we go. Ginger Runner. Yes, Yay. What is up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy Tuesdays to join us.
Chat room's calling it Second Monday.
Second Monday. I like that. Second Monday.
It's kind of like second dinner around here.
I'll take it. Mondays, people most often don't look forward to Mondays, but we've gotten a lot of people saying that they look forward to the Mondays to be able to watch Ginger Runner Live, which I think it's incredible. It's wonderful that you guys are taking the time to spend it with us during this live show. And of course, we archive it and you can watch it at any time at your convenience, plus the podcast. But tonight is a very special Ginger Runner Live. It's episode number... wow, my mouth is not working because it's Tuesday. It's episode 226, 226 episodes. And I can already tell you it's probably going to be one of my favorite episodes. Our guest tonight is a wonderful human, very kind, very warm, but also an incredible athlete. Just one of the legends in our sport. Has a resume taller than me.
If you were very tall.
If you were to print it out on tiny note cards and put them stacked on top of each other, it's very long and extremely badass. But in 2015, our guest suffered a terrible accident while on a run, and unfortunately, it damaged his leg. A year later, had surgery to remove that part of the leg, and has since come back to running, trained his ass off, and just completed one of the most insane challenges out there. It's a 100-mile mountain bike ride called the Leadville 100 MTB. The next day, running the Leadville 10K, and the next weekend, running the Leadville 100. Basically, over the course of 7 days, doing 206 miles on bike.
There's also the marathon in June is part of the series, and then there's the 50-mile races in early July too.
So there's a lot to this.
There's five of 6 races. Yeah,
I didn't realize there was more than just 3 races in the 7-week period. There's much more to this Leadman. That's incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
So you heard his voice. You've already seen his face, but our guest tonight is, I was already impressed, and now it's like, what? Dave Mackey is going to be joining us on this very special edition of Ginger Runner Live, which is very, very exciting. If you are watching live, I want to remind you that we are in the chat room, and we are taking live questions tonight, thanks to Kim.
Yes, as always, we are live. We have Dave here with us, so if you guys have questions for him, please pop them into the chat room. We'll be pulling them throughout the hour.
And with all of our episodes, we do like to take a very brief second here at the beginning to thank some individuals that allow this show to happen week after week. Our Patreon supporters, all of them, all levels. We just surpassed 1,600 Patreon supporters of all levels, which is amazing. And that is a huge milestone for us. So we are creating new art for all of our Patreon supporters, posters, basically art that will be shipped and people can frame it and put it up. That will be inspired by our Patreons, a lot of their experiences, their journeys. I've done a couple pieces of art for our Patreon supporters. They have them hanging in their walls. It's pretty cool. So you can go back and check those out. 3 individuals in particular at the top tier, we give a shout out at the top of every show. Chris Lee from Hong Kong does incredible things for the trail running community there. He has a company called Trailblazer. They're putting on this incredible can run where basically they're going to collect food and donate it to a local charity coming up this fall. It's the first time they've done it. It's a wonderful thing. They do so many good things for charity. So big shout out to Chris Lee. Rick Bjarnason from British Columbia. He and his team, they're all web designers and incredibly talented computer coders. They're currently redoing the Ginger Runner website, which is really neat. But they also are, well, Rick is an ultra runner and a constant or current viewer and a regular viewer of the show, trained for the Sinister 7 Fat Dog 120, which is unfortunately canceled this year due to wildfires and smoke. But Rick is a badass ultra runner himself and a wonderful human for supporting the show. And finally, Brian Sands, who we love to give a shout out to because his journey is also quite incredible. He ran his first marathon last October, lost over 100 pounds in the process getting there, and just ran his first 50K a matter of weeks ago.
Awesome.
Got so inspired by viewers and fellow guests of the show that he is now signed up for another 50K and his first 50 miler. It just shows what people are able to do out there. So big shout out to those 3 individuals for supporting us. Without further ado, let's get right into this because our guest tonight is taking time away from his beautiful, wonderful family and dinner. It's okay. I'm so excited to have him, Dave Mackey.
Yay!
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. Yeah. I've just been sitting in my butt for like 9 days after Leadville, and I jogged today and jogged like 2-3 days ago, and taking it easy. Yeah, I'm doing good.
So, I mean, obviously, this experience is not your first rodeo. You've been doing ultras for a long time. You're one of the pioneers of the sport, and just one of the names that when I got into it was told, learn about this guy. He's an incredible runner and athlete. For recovery, has this been any different because of the surgery and the leg? Was recovery after such an accomplishment different than what you're normally used to?
A little bit. I mean, just like anybody gets blisters, I had more blisters on my good foot, whereas I had a little bit on the residual limb of my bad leg. But it was, and that way the skin was, a big recovery part. And then just fatigue, just like anybody else, it was similar. Took some time off afterwards, and I'm not super aggressive about training. Like, I'm not going out for, mega long training runs anyway. And so just a week off easy, and then just let the skin recover. And yeah. Same as getting blisters and taking time and being easy.
That's interesting. Like, I can't imagine what, in my mind, I'm trying to picture the prosthetic, and we'll get to this later in the show, but I just can't imagine what sort of devices that you're using to keep that skin and to keep that joint from blistering and getting bad over the course of 24 plus hours out there. Is there like specific stuff that you have to do?
It's just like taping, as if you have you pre-tape your foot if you get blister areas. And I don't really use lubrication on the leg. I'm a below the knee amputee, left BKA. And so, the joint above that, the knee, is not affected at all. All my joints, the rest of my body is great. It's not, no injuries there. So yeah, it's just the interface of the leg with the socket. It's just like wearing a shoe. Except it's, I had my amputation, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And the first year was a huge learning process with adapting to that and the fit and the leg changes over that first year. And it really took a year to really start running again. And then and just anticipating where problems happen. Just like if you run 100 miles, where you're going to get it between the toes. Like for me, like I have the good leg that has issues between the toes sometimes, but also with the bad leg. I was just anticipating and pre-taping, really. I really just discovered last week leukotape. And some people use second skin, but this stuff is super adhesive, and it's really awesome. Actually, it actually saved my race. And by chance, my buddy Charles Corfield, who's a brilliant ultra runner, accomplished guy, who's kind of off the radar but extremely intelligent person, he told me about this and said, just pre-tape with leukotape and put a little dab of lube under it, and it's worked miracles, really. So I was able to figure out where those problems were and, tape those areas and strapped on the prosthetic and went. It turned out great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we'll have lots of questions about that once we start talking about the event itself. I want to backtrack a bit.
Okay.
If anyone is watching live, again, drop your questions into the live chat room. Kim's already pulled a bunch aside, and we'll get to as many as we can during this live stream. But if we back up a little bit, last time we had you on was about a year ago. It was after the surgery. We talked a bit about just getting back to running, what that was going to be like. And in this period of time since we last had you on, has it been all good? Has there been trials and tribulations? Has there been difficulties in your ability to get back to running on a consistent basis? What was the journey like for you early on?
Yeah, it's been hard. It's been extremely hard with, the accident, and then I anticipated, okay, I'm gonna have surgery. I'll be back later this year and run, and then all these other complications, which could be a whole episode behind, why I did that and why I took the leg off. But it's been challenging. I thought I'd be running in like 6 weeks, and light running isn't everything to me, but that was important to me. But it took a solid year really to really adapt. And it was really hard. And then even once I got running, it was discovering, where I'd have problems and getting the rest of the body adjusted to actually running itself. The muscle groups all adapted, and I'm missing one muscle in my quad muscles on my bad side where I had the amputation. And so just getting the muscle groups, working again, and it took time. And even once I started running in November last year, it really took at least a couple weeks. And that first 50K early this year was really hard, building up endurance again. And yeah, it's really like relearning in a lot of ways how to run and how to toughen up the body and the spirit and everything for ultra running.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that. It's for me, you just mentioned that running for you isn't everything. Did it take this for you to really dial into that and realize that running isn't everything, or was that something that you thought and believed while you were competing and winning, and was that sort of a transition phase and things are different, or?
Running, if I had to like pick 5 things in life, running is, one of those 5, but it's, I think because of, we have 8-year-old kids, and, I have a job, and, I'm late 40s now. And I didn't really start my first 100 miler was 31 or so. So I took a long time to kind of build into it. So trying to develop a career, I didn't know what I was doing. So just, working in medicine was what I wanted to do. And that's all more important than running to me. But then, there's other sports I love to do too, like mountain biking, which is perfect for the whole series because it's just so fun to get out on rides and train and just, do those races. And I'm married and love my wife. And so, I try to have balance in life. So, if I was in my 20s and had an accident, and, I'd probably be devastated because I hadn't, running would probably have been more important to me back then. But now it's, if I had to pick a time to have an accident, in my 40s would be it. Later in life would be good, like 70s or 80s, but then you've done it all already. But, it's not bad.
Well, let's hope this is it. Let's hope that that this is it. You mentioned, even before I talk about the mountain biking and the transition into training and stuff, let's get to a live question. Let's do that because we got tons here.
Yeah, there's a question from Nathaniel in the chat room, and Nathaniel asked, Dave, my takeaway from reading about your injury and associated recovery is that it was a painful process. Did that process change your pain tolerance, and did that help you at Leadman?
I don't think so. I once you run like 100 miles or done adventure races for multiple days, it's the pain endurance is similar. Actually, it was more painful in 2014 when I did the Leadman series than it was the other week when I finished it up. I was pushing so hard at the end of the series in 2014 because there were guys like right behind me, and I was trying to like hold my spot like fifth place in the actual run portion. So I really wanted to finish well, and I was hurting way more than I did the other weekend here. But yeah, when people ask me about the actual accident, the pain level was at that time was extreme. And so maybe on some level I can appreciate, pain, but I guess my perception of pain is, a little more abstract now, because in my time, in the last few years, I've seen and had patients and know people have had accidents and go through extreme things. And for me, just, surviving something like I did, I guess mentally makes it easier to tolerate pain. But, where I am right now, I can't really, I think about, Rob Craw ran the 100-mile, and he won it. I wonder what kind of pain did he feel? How can he,
Right.
Everybody's perception is so different, so I don't know, pain is so abstract, I don't know. I can't really describe it.
And I can imagine for someone like you who is in the medical profession and you deal with patients on a regular basis who also probably have different pain thresholds, has being in your profession and dealing with those sorts of things, has that helped you appreciate anything differently or change your outlook?
Yeah, absolutely. There's you think about, maybe you're having a hard time with an injury and rolled your ankle, it's painful, and there are always, including beyond me, there are always people who have it light years worse than you might have it, or I might have it. So losing a leg is severe. It's been difficult, but I guess it's kind of reassuring to see people, as my patients who almost every day who have it way worse. And so for me, it's like losing a leg it's been challenging, but I see people who have strokes or freak injuries, and they're paraplegics or quadriplegics, and it's reassuring to know that I really don't have it that bad. Honestly, it's I had a gruesome accident that's often described as, but it's compared to a lot of folks' stuff, it's really not hard. Yeah, there's a little person crawling around the floor over here. This is Ava.
She's hiding.
Yeah, she turned on the disco ball back there.
It's
Hi,
okay.
sweetheart.
That's something I want to get into also during the show is the family and how the family has adapted, because it's as much as it's your injury and your surgery, I imagine it has affected the entire family, but also maybe helped family and to teach the kids and stuff like that. So what's that been like? What's that process been like?
It's been pretty well, to ask them specifically. It's my impression that I think they've adapted really well. Initially, there's like a lot of questions, like what happened to Dad? He survived this accident, and is he going to be okay? But within weeks, kids are so adaptable to situations in general in life. So for them, I don't think they're traumatized by it. I think they probably learned a lot from it. My wife, it's been a bigger adjustment, and she's been incredibly supportive. And for the first months after the accident, she was basically bottle fed me more or less. But yeah. But she's gotten used to it too, and they've been incredibly supportive. But they know a lot more about people with who don't have one leg, and they make a lot of fun of me. They always joke about me like losing my leg, or sometimes it falls off, and I'll get a hard time with them. But yeah, my kids give me a really hard time in jest, but they're really supportive, and I think they've done pretty well with it.
Another reason why I'm really happy that you're open to talk about this stuff is I don't want to call it a stigma, but there's certainly this level of when you see someone like you who's doing the things that you're doing, which are incredible, with both legs, let alone with one. But there's that level of like wanting to understand, but fearing asking the questions. Because the instinct is, I don't want to ask him, I don't want to make him upset or anything like that. But you've been very open. The last time we had you on the show, you were extremely open with everything. I'm really curious, do you get people asking you about it, or are you actively trying to educate people, or anything like that? Because I think it's a wonderful thing. And what you show is that people, it doesn't matter the disability or the change in the body or whatever, you're able to do fucking anything. So I'm just curious if you're able to educate and expand that sort of thing for people.
Not yet. I'm still so new to it. It really, I mean, I'm really proud of, finishing Leadman. That's a huge series for anybody, but I'm not, I think on some level I feel like maybe I'm empowering other people, and that's my a secondary goal, but I'm really happy that people are inspired by it. I'm still kind of coming to terms with who I am. That, am I an amputee? Am I a challenged athlete, adaptive athlete, disabled? There's all these terms that folks use, but I really don't see myself that way. I'm doing the same thing, just with different equipment, learning how to, it's basically starting from scratch again, as far as learning how to run. And it's taken a long time, but it's, I hope that gives inspiration to others. But it's it's an identity change for sure. And then if I help others, push harder or whatever, and if more folks sign up for Leadman or whatever event and they use me as a model, then I'll be really happy to say that I helped get them over the edge to complete those things. That's definitely in the back of my mind. And I've definitely tossed that around, like, why am I doing this? What's my goal? And it's primarily for me, but I'm really happy to see others inspired by it, for sure.
I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt that you are inspiring others. You are going to inspire others. And I know it probably feels weird and it feels not tangible or anything like that, but just seeing and hearing this story, this journey, someone of your caliber as an athlete before and after, I promise you that people will be leaving this show, and I know you do other podcasts and all sorts of things. People are going to leave it inspired, and they are going to sign up for Leadman, and they are going to do things that they thought were impossible. So that's, bar none, that's going to happen. I hope you get feedback. Like, I hope you get letters. I hope you get messages from people, because I would love for you to see just how much you do, whether you realize it or not. I hope people just overwhelm you with mail and it's stacked up on your front door, because it's truly going to happen, and it is already happening. Let's get to another live question.
Yeah, question from Brad in the chat room. Brad asked, Dave, you're training and running various different distances and running and biking. Do you prefer faster, shorter events or longer, still pretty fast events? How has that changed post-accident, or has it changed?
It's completely different. It's I mean, I can only go so fast with a running blade, so I can't fly down hills like I did before. That was a strength of mine. Now actually climbing is a relative strength of mine. During whatever events, hiking or running uphill is just easier. So my limiting factors are probably downhills, just picking through technical terrain. I mean, I get through it fine, but the training wise, I don't do speed workouts anymore, and there's no pressure to have a really concise regimen for that. And I wasn't really big on speed workouts anyway. I was more into just like doing a whole bunch of races, and those were my speed workouts. But it was more now just kind of put miles in, and it's great. It's easy, like emotionally. I'm like, oh, I don't have to like psych myself up. I can just go out and do what I want. And then if it's, for the summer, it was just ride the bike. Then next day, go for a run, sometimes both in a day. And there's, a lot of like garbage miles, which is great. I can just relax and enjoy things. So it's easier actually with training.
I love that. It seems like it's a really good balance. So let's talk about this year then. So first, set the stage for Leadman. Let's go through, because I thought it was the 3 events. I obviously didn't look at the website. What are the multiple events? There's 6.
You have to do 5 of the 6. So
5 of the 6.
Leadville Marathon is in June, and then early July you have to complete a 50-mile mountain bike race, the Silver Rush 50, or the Silver Rush 50 run, which is the next day, or a small percentage do both. I did both of the 50-mile events. Just it was good timing for training, and I wanted to test myself. And then the 100-mile mountain bike is early August, and then the 10K the next day, like you said, and then the 100-mile run. So 5 of those 6 events you have to do.
That's
5 of the you have a choice at the 50 miles. You can do the Silver Rush 50 run or the Silver Rush 50 bike.
And you ended up doing both.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
Oh, there's just a question in the chat room from Theodore K2 just regarding logistics about the whole entry process. So he asked, how do the entry logistics look for that? Do you enter the whole thing and pay for all the entry fees at once? And he's saying it would suck not to get into an event that you would need to get the 5.
Right.
Yeah, you can register in like December. I think it filled up by January this year, surprisingly. So December, if you sign up, you pay the whatever $800,000, and you're in for the whole series.
Okay.
So actually, there's one guy who did the Leadman series, the whole thing only so that he could do the 100-mile bike, and then he dropped because that was his goal. That's pretty. That's not a smart thing to do, but that's pretty desperate. But that's how hard it is to get into these events.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's also not cost efficient.
Right.
Yeah.
He must have really wanted to ride that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but if you jump in early enough, you'll get in.
Okay.
But you better be committed. Yeah.
So it seems, I mean, obviously it's a great mix of a bit shorter distances, longer distances, but also bike and running. So your training going into this series, obviously the series was a big goal for you. Was the training mixed? Was it balanced to the point where you were doing equal miles each way, or was it heavier towards the mountain biking? What was that like?
More time. It was probably pretty even. When I competed in 2014, I was running too much. My focus was sponsored runner, so the biking came secondary, which probably cost me time on the bike. But yeah, it's pretty balanced actually. But I think each competitor has their own little preference, like what they like to do. But you definitely need to put time into both. For me, it was about 50-50, I think, as far as hours go.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I think I'd probably run 2 days out of 3. Maybe third day, I'd probably do like a 3-hour mountain bike ride or something like that. And you could get by with that. Just every third day, do a good ride. But yeah, you definitely need to have some balance in both.
We just had Rob Carrara on the show also talking about the Leadville 100, and I know you guys are close and saw each other a lot that weekend. And he talked heavily about his experience with the mountain bike coming back from his surgery as well, using it as a great cross-training tool and keeping him in shape during the recovery process, not having to log a lot of running miles. Do you find that now more, that you're able to use the bike to not take its toll on your body as you're training?
Yeah. In general, I've never been like a huge mileage guy as far as running. But the biking it's a great balance. It's, yeah, I don't know if it's underappreciated in ultra runners. It seems like most ultra runners are pure runners, and then maybe they choose to ride a bike when they get injured like that. But I think, it seems like the trend in general is lower. Don't do any long runs or do fewer longer runs. I mean, there's successful runners like Rob out there, or I know there's some other runners who are not doing super long runs and they're still doing great. I mean, this weekend's probably an exception. I know, like, coming up is UTMB, and those I think every runner on the list have been have phenomenal accomplishments. Killian ran like 6 hours like days ago or something like that and won a big race, and that's he's a freak though anyway.
I know.
So, but yeah, you can't take him and use him for anything as far as training.
You can't compare whatsoever. Yeah, it's like, oh man, I didn't crush a mountain this weekend, not killing him.
Yeah, but it's you can do low running miles and finish a 100-mile, or if you want to win them, you probably have to do more, or you're just incredibly talented like Rob. But yeah, I think throwing multi-sport in there is pretty important. That's always worked for me. Besides falling off a mountain and crushing my leg, I haven't had many injuries, until then.
Yeah. I'm also really curious just how mentally when you are approaching this series and each race, especially like the 50 miler. So the 50 miler, I know that you would run 50K earlier in the year, but I remember reading what you were talking about with the 50 miler as far as this is going to be a big weekend, and am I able to run the distance again, or obviously giving it a try. What was that like mentally to the total line for another 50 miler, which you had not run in years, that distance? How was it? And like, what did you go through at that start line?
Yeah, it was challenging from, I mean, the 50K, which was a leap, to the 50-mile events, and then to run the 100. Each one was an incrementally harder step. And I mean, for me, the goal was the series. And so I came into the, I'd done like 250Ks, one in Texas, the Bandera in January, and then the Hemes 50K in May. So I had those under my belt. So the marathon was kind of routine when that happened in June. But the my goal is to finish the series. So I did the 50-mile mountain bike on July 7th, I think. And then that got my time that I need to meet for the Leadman series. So the next day was the 50-mile run, and that was kind of like gravy. Let's just see how it goes. And if I drop, I didn't have anything to lose. I already had my 50-mile finish for the series in the bike. But it went pretty well. I mean, I was completely smashed by the end of the 50-mile run the day after the 50-mile bike. They're both hard races. But it was reassuring too, because I got through it and I had problems. I had skin issues. My running blade blew out entirely, but I got through it. And so that was a confidence builder to come into the 100-mile events.
It's there are so many other things that can potentially go wrong. You talk about the blade, and I remember you talking about keeping the rubber on the bottom of the blade and like making sure that you had traction, because if that came off and it was just raw blade, that you wouldn't be able to get any traction, right? So these sort of logistics that you are having to deal with, what's been one of the most unexpected that you've had to endure?
Probably, before the 100-mile run, I'd had all these, trials with the 50Ks and then the marathon. So I kind of knew like how durable the outsole on the blade is. And actually, I should have one of the kids run up and grab that. But if you want, I can go.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Hold on a sec. Okay, I got to yell.
Sure.
Hey, Ava. Oh, Ellie, can you grab the running blade that's up there? Okay, thanks.
I think our viewers would love to see it too.
Yeah, sure. So the outsole it's just like a running shoe. It's glued on, but it's a little more, fickle. You kind of just have to watch it, and it's attached to carbon fiber basically directly. So the mechanical side of it with the blade, and then that's attached to the socket, which goes in the leg. And the socket is just like where anybody's foot goes into a shoe. It's the same thing. It's skin on material. And so just, I guess the biggest surprise is figuring out, by trial and error and getting chafe and getting blisters in certain areas where that's going to happen. So it wasn't surprising that those would happen. It's just kind of like figuring out, over miles that this is where I'm going to have problems, then anticipating and adjusting. And like I said before, the figuring out how to tape and what material to use has been huge, and that's made a big difference.
Cool.
So
we'll show the blade here in just a second as it gets delivered to Dave. But I want to make sure.
Here it is.
There it is. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's get to one more live question, and then we'll talk about the blade.
Thanks, Sally.
Question from Snowman in the chat room. They asked, do you race each race to max effort, or do you dial back knowing you have multiple races so close together?
Good question.
Well, for that series, you go all out the whole, as best you can, for the series. Yeah, that's safe to say. Probably every athlete does that. Except for, it all comes down to the run, the 100-mile run.
Right.
Honestly, and that's maybe for some runners that just, if they're a strong runner, they'll kind of save it on the bike until the 100-mile run. There's no pure ultra runners doing that series. Everybody has to have some balance to it. So, but I think most of the time comes down to the run, and you can lose it all there. And that's when let's see, I think how many started that? I think 60 started the 100-mile run who were completing in the Leadman series. 99 started in the whole series back in June, and 66 or so made it to the 100-mile run. And I know most of them knew that it was going to come down to the run. It's, that's the place where you're most likely to really cash out. And I think 22 of those, I think, didn't finish the 100 run.
Wow.
So there's definitely a conservation piece of it. And for me, it's, it's pretty much going all out the whole time, except for the 100-mile run. You can't do that, or you're going to blow up by, Twin Lakes or whatever. So it's just getting to that last race. That's the big deal. But they're spread out enough so you can go pretty hard, especially on a bike. You can go so hard and recover. Like, I'm sure Rob said that I didn't listen to his show, but you can really suffer on that and feel okay the next day on the bike section.
Right, and it's always I always think about how with biking, especially mountain biking, you're crushing the uphills, and then you get to coast and kind of. I mean, I know with mountain bike it's a lot more upper body strength to kind of endure the downhills, but you do get that recovery while you're in the midst of the event, as opposed to running, which is like a constant sort of barrage. Let's take a look at the blade. I'm really curious. This is the one you ran, Leadville 100, right?
Yeah. So this is. It's a fill hour. That's the company that makes it. I also ran in one made by a company called Oser, but this is the one I used in the hold it back here.
Sure.
It's so that little pylon they call at the top there. That's the cylinder that attaches the socket, which is kind of goes around the leg. It just screws on with Allen keys. Okay. And then the blade is just like a spring. Basically, provides some cushion. I mean, there's a socket, then there's this blade is actually kind of foot. The foot can come in different versions. This is called a running blade, of course. So yeah, it's carbon fiber. It's kind of dirty from my run today, but kind of shiny. This is the outsole.
Okay.
And this is, I think this is maybe it's a Vibram outsole, but this is the factory outsole that came with it, and there's no midsole on it, so it attaches directly to the actual blade, to the actual carbon fiber.
Interesting.
The cushion comes from the spring aspect of it, and it's glued on. I don't know what the factory glue is, but it's if this wears out, you can glue it back on with barge cement, just any old outsole, or even Gorilla Glue. That's what I've used before.
I was going to say, isn't that what you encountered where you lost an outsole on one of your blades and you had to jerry rig it, right? Yeah,
that was kind of it kind of blew out, unfortunately, right before the 50-mile run, and so I couldn't get down to my prosthetist who had the right outsoling stuff, so I just used what I had, which the outsole fell off halfway through the 50-mile run, and unfortunately, running on, as you can imagine, running just on carbon fiber will completely thrash it because it's strong, but it's so brittle. It just splintered. But I was able to finish, which is the goal. Yeah.
I'm like fascinated by what it feels like. Did you find any body imbalances? Does it take a lot of training your body to adapt to? I mean, you're talking about the springiness. You don't have midsole or anything. So what was the adaptation like? And has it changed?
It's not. Yeah, it wasn't that bad for me. I mean, I've had no other body imbalances or back issues or joint issues. I really adapted pretty well to it.
Sweet.
I've kind of always had that kind of a gift of just dealing with whatever running shoes I put on. Actually, could usually work out pretty well as long as the size was right. And for adapting the prosthetic, it took a couple runs, but it really wasn't that bad. Your muscles just naturally kind of adapt to it. Just like if you took I'm running with Ultra now, and I have the zero drop, and that I've adapted just fine to that. Just like if one of you took your more conventional drop with a shoe and put on a zero drop, it takes a couple runs, but the same thing with the prosthetic. You get used to it, except it's obviously a more extreme example, putting on a prosthetic versus a different running shoe. But it's gone pretty well, actually. Yeah.
It's interesting to kind of hear. I didn't even think about the descending. Like, like you having to take a little bit more time on the descents, only because I imagine on technical descents you can't just bomb them like you used to. A little bit more time and care has to be taken.
Yeah. And some people are natural runners. I mean, the ones that who aren't natural descenders, you can see them running and they have to place each foot, and I have to do that now. And it's and that's only when there's like a lot of cobbles or rocks around.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm still okay. I'm probably faster than the average runner on the descents, but definitely not what I was.
Yeah, I've seen your time. Let's just point this out too, that Dave Mackey is still very fast. Like I'm looking at the times very recently you ran. I mean, some of these races that you've been running, I was like, man, I'm really curious what Dave is running, and I'm going, this is incredible. Like Dave is just crushing these races. It's like nothing happened. It's that amazing to me. Again, we are live. Welcome everyone. We're with Dave Mackey. Kim's got some questions pulled aside. Let's get to some of those.
Yeah, a question from Kim Wrinkle in the chat room. Kim asked, Dave.
Kim.
Yep, the Kim Wrinkle.
The Kim Wrinkle, yes.
Yeah. Hey, Kim.
He says, Dave, what was the most difficult part of the Leadman series, and what role did your family and friends play in getting you through the series?
Good question, Kim.
Back to, I guess, family and friends first. It was a tremendous. I mean, particularly the 100-mile run, because I was out there for so long, and with pace, like the pacers with my buddy Bob was. You might get a visitor here. Here's Connor, by the way.
Hey again, Connor.
Say hi.
He can't hear us, but hi.
So, the 100-mile run, I would have lost hours, if not dropped at Winfield. It wasn't for my crew. Like Bob Africa was there for me, and then my buddy Jeremy Gear was there for me, and then there was some media covering me too, and those are my friends too, like Billy and Matt Trappy and then a couple other people, and just seeing them got me through the turnaround at Winfield. I mean, I don't think I would have dropped then, even though I felt like garbage, but they pulled me around. And I mean, all of you have been through ultras, and the role that people and pacers and friends and family play are just tremendous at those key moments, and that was the case for me. I rebounded halfway through, and that was a huge part of that was thanks to Bob and Jeremy and my other friends there, and they catapulted me to the end, and literally. But then, what was the initial part of Kim's question? Sorry.
I think you actually answered both parts. It was what was one of the more difficult parts of the series, but also how did the friends and family play a role? The midway through the 100-mile run was by far the hardest part. Yeah, I considered quitting. I was 50-50 quitting. Wow.
So but I decided, I'm gonna keep walking and see how it goes, and it came back.
Let's get into that then, because I've been wanting to talk about the Leadville 100. It's the last of the series for you, which I thought three. Hi. I thought it was 3 events. It's obviously 5 of 6, if not 6. And I'm curious for the run itself, what was going on that got you to that midway point that made you feel the way you were feeling? So what was going on in that run that maybe wasn't firing on all its cylinders?
It was it happened. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Kids are awesome.
That's good. Yeah, they're okay. Time for bed, young man. It was when I ran it in 2014, I had problems like just adjusting after the bike. I had muscle spasms, and at the 50-mile mark, then I was hurting and rallied, and the same thing happened this year. Except it was later in the race, going over Hope Pass. I felt really good climbing out of Twin Lakes. I had no problems. And then coming down, my muscles were just toast. My hip flexors, my quads. Didn't feel much energy, and got to the bottom of Hope Pass. And then you got basically a 4-mile climb, and then a brief descent down to Winfield. And I basically walked in power like that. I felt trashed, and I really thought I was going to drop at Winfield. I said, I'm going to get in here, and I'm definitely going to turn around and start back. But I pictured it best to, a death march to the finish to hit 30 hours, and it came back, which happens, and it's always surprising and astonishing, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting it back. Once I got my pacer back, and he took stuff off my back, and it was motivating me, and luckily I was eating really well, and I think all that just kicked in and had the fuel to rebound. But that part at Winfield really sucked. It was, I was 50-50 if I'd make it.
That's amazing to get to that point in that series and at the turnaround and to have that sort of breakdown where you're like, I can't imagine putting so much time and energy and family and training and everything into the series. But I understand in ultras there are lows that are beyond what you would ever expect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. You only go through maybe everybody goes through those and all their 100-milers, and I've never been a 100-mile specialist, but most runners probably go through that, except they're, even the ones who win, they have their low points, maybe as extreme. And it was humbling. It was actually I'm happy it happened, because I appreciate even more that, I got through this, and, I experienced what everybody else did, and it sucked, and I made it.
Did you have any of those feelings of when you used to, like, before the surgery? Did you have any, like, flashbacks to that? Those are the feelings that I remember feeling from before, and, like, were you happy to feel them now in retrospect, especially? Were you happy to have experienced those again and push through them? Like
absolutely. Yeah. I didn't. I mean, before I had the amputation, when I was having all these problems, I had scar tissue in my leg that was probably going to cause me pain, for the rest of my life. And I was having infection issues, a bone infection, and I didn't think, it wasn't on the radar then that I would have my leg amputated.
Right.
It wasn't an option, but it just came to a certain point when I did decide that I thought, okay, this is the best choice. I'm going to have my leg amputated. And then I knew I would be, running at some point. I didn't know I'd run 100 miles or not. But before that, it was like, I just don't know how, what I'm going to do again. And again, running isn't everything to me, but quality of life is most important. But back then I didn't know if I'd get to that point. And then to go to Leadville and to, suffer through the series and then do the 100 and experience, all those, suffer-fest moments where you just think you're going to pass out and die. And it's really refreshing in a lot of ways. Yeah.
It's, I can't put it into words, man. It's like, I can only imagine the magic that was you crossing that finish line, what it felt like to you to be able to do it again. I can't imagine what was the feeling? So you finished in just under 25 hours.
Yeah.
You got the special buckle. What was the feeling when you crossed that finish
special buckle?
I didn't mean special. I meant it's shinier.
Yeah, bigger. That's a big point. It felt. I was talking to my friend I was running with today, and she asked me that, and it was. I mean, to go under 25 hours is huge, and I didn't even realize I'd get the big belt buckle at that. I realized like late in the race, I get a big belt buckle. I go 25. My goal is 24. And I was like, oh, still cool. I'm still going to get that, and everything went great overall. I met my goals, but it wasn't like I wasn't on my knees crying at the finish. I mean, for me, throughout this whole process, the biggest point was simply surviving the fall off Bear Peak, because I fell, I grabbed, the rock slipped out. I was scrambling to control my fall. I landed on my back on literally like, a postage size area that was, not postage size. It was 6 feet, which is my height by 3 feet out of, a huge pile of talus. And I survived that. And for me, like, that's like, I survived a huge dice roll. And then, everything after that is, because I survived death, is tremendous. I feel like I have more of an appreciation, for life and for these things. And so I don't know, I'm not a very tearful guy anyway. And my wife will agree. I'm more of like just get it done.
Yeah.
And then, move on to the next thing. And so, for me, it's not just another notch in the belt. This 100-mile event, throughout the series, like that was the culminating event. Is I'm always going to remember that. That's by far the hugest accomplishment in my life, is finishing that, and I'll always remember it. But hopefully, there's other things to move on to. So, yeah,
man, it's awesome, dude. It is such a cool accomplishment, and I'm so happy for you. And I know I mentioned it earlier in the show, and again, I don't know. I hope you get a chance to understand, but just the inspiration, the word is thrown around a lot, and I think there's a certain level of people saying you inspire me that is like, okay, yeah, I get it, but Dave Mackey, you inspire me, and I know that you inspire my wife as well, and you inspire a lot of people. I hope you realize that you're gonna get letters from people, man. I seriously,
you're really into the.
I just want a pile of letters in front of Dave's door.
Him a lot of letters.
Okay, you're gonna get 8,000 letters from me.
Email, tweet,
You're gonna be the new Santa Claus. You're basically every year gonna have to answer people's letters. We have still some live questions, so let's get to one of those, and then we'll move into the post show with Dave Mackey.
Yeah, sure. There's a question from Kevin in the chat room, and Kevin says, Dave, we crossed paths both times up on Hope Pass. How did it feel to have so many people cheering and rooting for you throughout the race? Did it compare to being a front runner at events?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Twin Lakes coming back, like mile 60. It was like no other finish in an ultra in the U.S. that I'd ever seen before. I mean, UTMB in France. I didn't run UTMB. I ran CCC, but the Europeans are way more into it. It was like that type of crowd at Twin Lakes coming back, which was incredibly inspiring. And I felt really good then, carrying on through the race. So that just kind of launched me into the finish. That was tremendous. I can't believe how many people were there. Like I think Rob Clark commented on this too. It was amazing. It was like Europe. It was really cool. Yeah.
What a cool thing to experience, especially in the U.S. Like you mentioned, there's not many U.S. races that get that sort of fanfare or spectators. We're hoping that it begins to spread here. We love we have a lot of local races that we love, and a lot of races in Colorado and California. I'd love to see big crowds out there. Western States obviously is one of those that gets. Forest Hill is big spectator favorite, but I bet Leadville's close second for sure.
Yeah.
Dave Mackey, you are one hell of a human being. We really appreciate you just taking the time to answer our questions and sit down with us and kind of go through some of what you experienced out there. What's next? Are you planning on doing Leadman again, or was this a big redemption story, or are you signing up for other events? What's going on?
I'm not going to do Leadman next summer. I want to. So in hindsight, looking back, I was like, actually, it's kind of fun. The 100-mile moments. I'm planning on running the New York City Marathon because I got an entry through Strava, and then JFK 50, which I haven't run since 2003. So I'm psyched to go back to that. And then I don't know what I'm going to do next. Next year's still up in the air, but I do know that Leadville 100 was my qualifier to do Western Stakes next summer. So I might be at Western next summer.
Ooh, spicy! That could be fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully that happens. I again can't appreciate you taking the time out tonight, and please thank your family as well. Your family is awesome. It's great to get glimpses. But I know that you have dinner upstairs, and Dave Mackey took some time out tonight to spend it with us. If you are watching live, stick around because we are going to have Dave stick around for our post show. So if you are a Patreon supporter, just head on over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. If you have questions for Dave, hold on to him. Go there and ask him again because Dave's going to stick around for a little bit to answer some of our Patreon questions. If you are not a Patreon supporter, consider it. It's as little as $1 a month. It supports everything we do, this show, the reviews, the films, everything. It's as little as $1, and you get access to all of the archives of the post shows, which is pretty cool. So you can go back and listen to Dave's previous episode, see the post show, Rob Crar's episode, and get a whole whole smorgasbord of information regarding Leadman and Leadville. It's a pretty cool race. I haven't been up there before, but it makes me want to go there. So Dave, Mackey, thank you so much. Can you remind people where they can find you on social and stuff like that, where they can reach out or follow you?
Oh, geez, Mackey Dave is Twitter. Gosh, my Instagram, Dave Mackey 1 or David Mackey 1, I think. I don't even know. Facebook, I don't know. Look it up or something.
Well, just tell them that they can find it. They got your name. Go find Dave Mackey on the social media. He is present on all the platforms, and I'm sure would love the support. So thank Dave for being on the show if you can. You guys know the drill, but our guest tonight, just a wonderful person, really wonderful athlete, and every time I get a chance to, I've only seen him in person a couple of times, but I remember him driving out while working to come to Where Dreams Go to Die screening to come say hi and to say hi to Gary. And it was one of those things that meant a lot because it was out of his way. He was in the middle of the job, but was like, man, I'm going to come by the theater. And it was really neat. And I will tell you, Dave, I don't think I got to tell you this in person, but Gary was legitimately blown away that you would even come to that theater to say hi to him. He was like, wait, Dave Mackey's at the door? I was like, yeah, let's let him in. And Gary's like, I don't know what I'm wearing. I need to change. I need to put on makeup. So that was really cool. Shave his
beard.
Yeah. That'll never happen. As much as everyone wants it to. So great show. Thank you so much, Dave. And we're going to move right into the post show with our guest, Dave Mackey, tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, everyone, for a Tuesday special Ginger Runner Live episode 226. We won't be doing a Ginger Runner Live next week because Labor Day.
Yes.
But the week after, we'll be right back with 227. So back to your regularly scheduled broadcasts. Thank you, everybody. Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. All right. Get out there. Train hard. Race harder. Party the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.